You're listening to Japan Baseball Weekly. News, interviews, analysis, and hot takes about all 12 NPB teams. Hosted by Jim Allen and John E. Gibson.
Hi, and welcome to the Japan Baseball Weekly podcast. It's for the week of July 17th. I'm John Gibson, and with me on a Saturday night is a bunch of my friends.
Yay!
So for those of you who are watching on YouTube, you can see to my left, Jim Allen is here. Below me is Michael Westbay. To his right, if he's looking out, is to our left is Claudio Rodriguez. And at the bottom, not last but not least, is Jason Coskrey. Thank you, gentlemen, for gathering for our first, maybe hopefully of many, midway point roundtable discussions. Thank you very much for coming and joining us.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Where else would I be, John, on Saturday night except doing a podcast?
A&W root beer, apparently.
I would be in Okinawa then. I'd go for that.
I would too. Those chili dogs, yay, and some root beer. So we've been talking about doing this for a while, especially Claudio. He has been enthusiastic as usual. I want some of your enthusiasm. I always think I have enthusiasm. Claudio's the first one to reply. He's always, I'm in, I'm ready. I'll do whatever you need. Man, we love you so much. Are you going to make a trip out here this year?
Not this year. Hopefully next year. My wife wants to go. She hasn't been there since 2017. My kids want to go because I haven't been there since 2017 as well. So yeah, we're definitely want to go. Just we couldn't make it this year, but hopefully next year.
All right. And Michael Westbay has been so busy in recent years, especially last year, I think, when tickets actually were able to be sold to games and they could get fans in there even though they couldn't cheer. So we're glad to have you here and see you back again on JBW.
Yeah, this year was like 3 years of pent up wanting to go to baseball game fans. All hit JapanBallTickets.com at the same time. It was, but Margarita and I didn't get much sleep those first few months of the season.
It's back like when you had children, right? Young babies, right?
Yeah.
And speaking of which, father-to-be Jason Coskrey, how you doing, buddy?
You're muted.
You're doing so well, we can't hear a word you're saying.
I'm very good now. Thank you can hear me. And also quite hot, but I'm good. Yeah, thanks.
Hey, man, it's summer. Yes, cook. Yeah, let's go.
I'm cooking.
Nothing wrong with a little sweat. All right.
Keep it in your window there. I don't want any here.
Okay, I will. All right. So we're joining forces tonight to discuss basically what's happening at the midway point. We haven't done this before. It's going to be a roundtable discussion. Who knows what's going to happen? But anyway, let's start swinging. All right, so where are we going to start here? We're going to start in the Pacific League, and we're going to start with Jim. We're going to hit all 12 teams, so we're going to start from the bottom of the Pacific League and work our way up, and the same with the Central League. And up first is Jim with the Lions.
Okay, yeah, the Lions have really been a sad act this year, made worse. You know, they started the season without Sosuke Genda because he played through a broken finger. And of course, that was the subject, one of the principal stories of Japan's WBC movie.
So yeah, we did want to see one of the WBC movie. We just want to note they are 33-47. They are in last place. What was your prediction for them before the season started? Do you remember?
No idea.
Okay, well, luckily I have that right here.
Okay, well, you tell me then, because if I cared, I would remember.
Oh gosh. Well, you had them finishing third.
Okay.
All right.
And I will quickly forget that because I will care as much before after the show as I did before the show.
Be nice.
Okay. I do like a lot of the Lions players. I like that they have a lot of young guys coming up. I think this has been an artifact of Kazuo Matsui being the minor league manager the last 2 years and knowing the guys who are putting in the work on the farm team. The Lions are really, really, really bad. It's not
Tell us how you really feel.
The pitching has been inconsistent. It started smoking hot with Kona Takahashi, and he has cooled off. They've had some, typical performances. They've got their pitching staff reminds me a lot of Oryx's maybe 4 or 5 years ago, when they had all these young kids who didn't know how to adjust to when things weren't perfect, and they either had good stuff or they had nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way the Lions starting pitching is. It's hit and miss. The offense is really, really inconsistent. David McKinnon has been getting better and better, which is a strong point. Takeya Nakamura is having a little renaissance in that, they haven't started looking for a burial plot for him yet.
Ooh, he had a walk-off tonight. Leave the man alone.
I know.
He's eating.
I know, but I'm just saying there were not really big expectations for him before the season, but
Probably not.
the issues surrounding Hotaka Yamakawa has forced the Seibu Lions to shuffle the deck a bit. And so we're getting a lot of playing time from, the guys who can play baseball, but just not established at a high level. And I think the Yamakawa, the whole thing surrounding him has not helped. I mean, it's just sort of cast the team in a bad light, and they've been inconsistent is probably the best thing you can say about them.
Okay.
They've scored 226 runs this year, which is
that counting today?
Yes, which is dead last in NPB. And that's
hard to do.
It is.
When the Dragons are out there dragging everybody down.
It's hard to do when the Dragons are out there and playing in the worst pitchers park in the NPB. Seibu Dome is not a terrible pitcher's park. I mean, it used to be a good hitter's park before they built the home run lagoon and the home run terrace and the whatever they call it in Rockden. But yeah, that's not good. They have 53 home runs, which is second. Well, it's third worst and fourth worst. So it's not that bad. The home runs really aren't the problem, but they're not getting on base. They're not running the bases particularly well. They try hard, and I don't fault the guys' efforts, but it's really been an uphill climb for them.
All right.
I don't think their pitching is substandard. Their offense is substandard, and you get what you see. What you see is what you get, I should say.
All right. Let's give somebody else a chance. Jason, what are you thinking? Jason.
Oh, I didn't hear you. I guess you cut off when you said my name. All right. Sorry. I think I predicted they were going to be in last place. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure I predicted them in last place.
I'm glad to know you guys did your homework. All right. That's all right. I got it here. Go ahead.
Well, did I?
I'm looking. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I kind of echo a lot of the things Jim said about the team. They're not that good. Although I would say that Kaima Taira has been very impressive to me. I think he made the right decision to switch to starting from the bullpen and skip to WBC to work on it, and it's showing. He looks like he's going to be really good at it. I don't really see the Lions as too dissimilar to the Fighters. I think that you've got a new manager, he's playing some guys, seeing what they can do. It's just not getting the news because he's not having lotteries before the game and making them pull gotchas out to decide the lineup like Shane Joe's doing. But it's kind of similar. I mean, although the Lions are older and they probably have more expectations because there's no 40-year-old guy, hitting home runs to left field for the Fighters. But I don't think they're a very good team. I think they're trying hard, like Jim said, and they're going to probably stay in last place or fifth.
Yeah, you had them finishing last, so that was your prediction. Claudio, what are you seeing when you get a chance to see them?
Yeah, I had them finishing fourth. And I had them finishing fourth because I thought, okay, the Fighters and the Eagles are not going to do better than them. The Eagles the Fighters, surprisingly have been having a decent season, even though they're started losing now. But I agree with what Jim said. I mean, there's no much to say about the Lions. They have some talent, but they have been inconsistent. Their pitching hasn't been great. The hitting hasn't been great. So, there's not much you can say about it. It's just they're in last place. And I mean, they can come back and finish fifth or something, but I don't think they're going to have a chance to make it to the playoffs or anything. So, yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
Michael, what have you seen?
Well, I had the Lions finishing in fifth. I probably had them in fourth before Jim mentioned that Kazuo's record on the farm team had them finishing last down there. So that kind of pushed me to pushing them down into fifth place. The Lions pitching, though, 3.14 ERA is not the worst in the Pacific League. But their batting average of 229 up until Friday is down toward the bottom. So it seems to me that their batting is more of a problem than their pitching.
Right. Jim mentioned that they were dead last in runs. And that.
Yeah. Well, their run differential is negative 53 going into Friday. So yeah, they've got some issues between runs scored and runs allowed. Otherwise, the Lions, I really like to see them doing better, and Kazuo seems like a manager who wants the job. He wants to do something. He wants to bring something to the team, but I just don't think it's working.
Yeah, before we started recording, I said I like what he's doing. I like him as a manager. I just don't think he's stacked with a lot of talent there on the top team. And you can bring up as many farm kids as you want and let them play, but they're only going to show how the depth of the organization is kind of not there. And so, I want to blame a lot of this stuff on Hotaka Yamakawa and his situation, and I'm sure the fans do as well. But I'm thinking that except for the 80s rock band pitching duo of Takahashi and Tatsuya Imai, you've got those guys with the hair. They got the lion hair going.
We get it.
Yeah, you get it. So, and like you said, Kaima Taira, after that, there's a severe drop off. Although they get not spot starts, but really good starts from some of the pitchers once in a while. It's just not consistent enough. And if you're not going to be scoring runs, I don't see how you can get back into the race. And I thought about their strengths and their weaknesses, and the strengths are those three guys at the front of the rotation. And then the weakness is that they probably don't really have a catcher who can play full time. They don't really have. They had a first baseman come in for a little while to take over for Yamakawa, and that was Kento Takahashi is his name. And
Kento Watanabe,
Kento Watanabe, and he got injured. He was hitting okay, but he had just started to come around and hit with a little bit of pop, and he was getting some hits now and then. And he's 100+ kilograms, but he's light on his feet. But I think he had some kind of foot injury, so. No, it doesn't look good. I don't know. Anybody see a path for them to break in to the playoff situation in the second half of the season? If X happens, if somebody gets hot or something, I suppose Yamakawa could have his situation settled and come back and go on a streak, because he wasn't even doing that well before he left. It was. No. I remember a 3 years ago, Jason tweeted out, "Friends don't let their friends pitch to Yamakawa," because he was hitting everything. I mean, he was hitting women and children. He was hitting in so much. So, I mean, he was not tearing it up. And then he had the situation. So maybe that thing was percolating and boiling behind the scenes, and he just was not able to focus. But yeah, no path.
Well, no, they're not really, because I don't see it in the offense. I saw that I thought Kento Watanabe, good point. And I see it, but I see guys, the guy who I've been becoming more and more impressed with, who has taken a long time to adjust to pro pitching, is Chihiro Sumida, and his games are getting slowly and slowly better and better and better when he was just dog meat in his rookie season. So, you're beginning to see the pitcher who looks like the guy they wanted when they drafted him first. So, or when they signed him first. I don't know if he was their first choice. But yeah, no, I see that, but without the offense, without any kind of consistent offense that, it's one day it's Shuichi Tonosaki, and one day it's Takuya Nakamura, and one day it's David McKinnon, and then one day it's one of the other people. Okay, and the other 4 days it's nobody. So
I know that guy.
I don't see that. I don't see that team scoring enough runs to keep their pitchers alive on off days.
Even if they got consistent, they're 11 games out of third place.
Right.
So the other teams aren't just going to stop playing. So they can play to not for pride, but I guess be the kings of the bottom three and go in for some momentum into next year. Maybe learn how to play without Yamakawa if they have to next year too.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. There's just the gap is too big and there's too many teams in front of them.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move on to the team right in front of them, and that's the Fighters, and that's Jason.
All right. The Cotton Palm Fighters, who I picked in fourth place, and they are currently in fifth place. They were in fourth place until they started losing every game in sight.
They ran into a hot team, and then another hot team.
They ran into 8 hot teams.
Yeah, I hate it when that happens.
Drive straight. Stop running in.
I guess for strengths of the team, Chusei Manami has just been amazing. Relative to what he was last year, he's just been absolutely amazing because he's dropped his strikeout rate, he's upped his walk rate. He spent, I think, part of December in Seattle at Drive Line working on hitting and used some of their data to revamp his batting stance. It's kind of switches similar to what Kosuke Kato did. With where he keeps the bat on the shoulder, and he said that's helped him stay back and through the zone. And maybe that's been it. He has had more time to think, or he's just going up with more of a plan. But he's been really good, and they've got good pitching. Tadayuki Kato's been good. Naoyuki Osawa's been good. Hiromi Ito has been not as good as he was, but he's been pretty decent. But then there's a drop off there. I guess that slides into the weaknesses for the team because those are the only 3 guys they have who've thrown more than 90 innings. So they've got to find some depth or something somewhere. Kinya Suzuki and Kitagawa. I'm blanking on his first name right now, but they've been pretty decent. Koki Kitagawa, and they've been decent when they've been in there, but they haven't been in there for long, and they haven't even been full-time starters, although Big Boss has been starting them more lately. But as far as the Fighters, their run differential is exactly 0 right now. It's 263 runs allowed, 263 runs scored, and they've got the best ERA in the league for what that's worth, although they don't have the best FIP, so that's kind of evens it out a little bit. But I think they're about right where they're going to be. They make too many mistakes, and that's one of, I think, their big weaknesses. You saw them lose a game on the bases earlier this week against Rockton, and they make a ton of errors, and that's some of that probably contributes to this. They're on an 8-game losing streak, and they've lost 7 straight games by 1 run. So sometimes it just comes down to a young team that's learning and not able to make the play they need to make to win.
And a young manager, and I think a lot of those defensive mistakes are just, we had one game where Big Boss had put he put his outfielders out there and then didn't have any outfielders on the bench as replacements and made a change. And he's got, Manami and other guys playing first base who probably don't have that much experience there at the pro level. And I think we look at the numbers and say the defense is bad. I look at the manager and say, what are you doing?
Well, it's also part of a fighter's tradition, and I know Deanna Rubin mentioned this. It's a fighter's tradition is to list people as outfielders on their roster only as a last resort. So they've always got Kensuke Kondo was listed as a catcher until about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And basically he hasn't caught for 7 years. So that's just their team tradition. So sometimes when you look at their team and say, they've got no outfielders, they've just got no guys who are listed as outfielders. I mean, Kota Yazawa's spent most of his pro career playing in the outfield. So
poor guy. Let him pitch. Michael, what do you think about fighters?
I think that Shinjo has improved from last year.
Had to. Nowhere to go but up.
There was nowhere to go but up. Yeah.
right.
The young players that he brought up last year are starting to show that they can perform at the top level. Sure, not quite in a class level yet, but they are doing well. They've got a run differential of +1 through Friday, and that's better than the Eagles. So they are losing those close games, and I think that that's something that a young team is going to gradually turn around. And I will not be putting the Fighters in last place next year.
Okay, Claudio.
Well, one thing I wanted to mention is that something I have noticed with Shinjo is that he is not consistent with his lineup and his positions. Like in the case of Ariel Martinez, for instance, you see him, he plays catcher and then he plays first base, and then some games he's a designated hitter. And it's like, okay, well, just leave somebody on the same place all the time. Like, why you keep changing, even though when they're playing well? So, I like the Fighters. I like the fact that they have improved this year. They were playing better until recently when they started losing. But, I think probably the team would do better if Shinjo would just stick to certain guys in certain positions instead of changing them all the time. I think Arismendi Alcantara, for instance, he could be an everyday player and contribute to the team, but he just doesn't get the chance. And Alan Hansen, when he has played, I mean, his average is very low, but he has done good defensive plays. He has, driven in some runs sometimes. So, a bit more consistency. Just don't keep changing the positions and the spot in the lineup all the time. Just, give them the chance to settle and do better. That's my only concern with them. But my prediction was that they were going to finish 5th. I think that's where they are right now. So pretty much where I thought they would be, but I think I like the team. I think they can do better. But again, my complaint with Shinjo is just the consistency part. They just keep, don't keep changing the guys all over the place all the time. Give them some consistency.
I'm with you because I'll see, like you said, Martinez, I like him. I like him catching, but I guess they don't want him catching certain pitchers, and maybe those pitchers want a catcher with a little bit more experience, and they traded what's his name? Usami?
Mm-hmm. Shingo
Usami, they traded him, and part of the problem with him in the past was his defense and game calling and all that stuff. The guy could hit, he just wasn't great at the other side of the game, and so they shipped him out. But yeah, they don't have great catching material there anyway, so I thought Martinez would be able to do at least settle that position down a little bit, but they got him rolling all over the place. I mean, he got to come to the park and check in and then find out what gloves to get out of his bag. He's just got to take them. So I'm with you, but I think that's the way the Fighters roll. I think they're going to keep doing that. I don't think anybody's going to be able to, unless you win a position with your bat, you're not going to keep it. Jim, what do you got with the Fighters?
No, I think that's. I don't disagree with any of this. I think their starting pitching is actually quite good. I mean, even the second tier guys they've thrown in there have been quite good on occasion. Koki Kitayama's, he's the former closer, and we didn't know what to expect, and they've been stretching him out a little bit more and more. Looks a little bit like a starting conversion along the lines of what the Marines have done with Yuji Nishino.
Mm-hmm.
except waiting, starting that before he turns 30. and and like it was on the farm for years kind of thing. But no, I like what they're doing with the starting pitching. I like how they're building it slowly around. I do like Kenya Suzuki. I do like, of course, like Takayuki Kato. I mean, he throws slowly, but he so knows what he's doing that he has many more good games than bad. But the starting pitching overall is good. The relief pitching overall is terrible. And because they're a young team, there were some really kind of half-hearted studies done or inconclusive studies about what kind of teams do well in one-run games. And there was a very slight edge towards veteran teams and teams with solid benches and teams with good late relief pitchers. And so when you look at the Fighters, the one-run skid sort of falls into that line. Now, I don't look at a one-run loss as being necessarily a bad thing. It's sort of a glass half full, glass half empty kind of thing. There's something there. When you're losing by one run, you're talking about games that are more or less are more likely to be decided by the way a ball bounces or an umpire's single call or a missed catch. One thing can turn those games very easily, whereas where they wouldn't in a 10-0 game. Sure. So they tend to be much more affected by randomness, and they're not necessarily a sign of a bad team, but it's not losing 7 in a row is not a good of them in a row is not a good look. No matter how you slice it. But I do like the Fighters. I think with the thing with sticking with the players, again, as John is fond of saying, we don't know what they're actually doing. We can only look and see what shows up on the field and what comes out in the game.
What do you do? Sit in some laboratory somewhere and just change all my quotes into something else? I very simply said, we don't always know the plan. We only know the result. What are you doing butchering my quote to death here? I didn't even recognize it almost. It was a Frankenstein quote.
And the point I'm making is essentially the same, is that you don't know what's under the hood. You only see what's on the outside.
Gotcha.
And, changing the players every day it can work. It can work if there's a plan to it. If it's part of the plan that everybody's a part of, it can work really well. If people are into it, and you see that from time to time that teams make a big deal about it. But
yeah. Didn't Valentine Kanto could do that
sure.
many years ago?
Sure, and Ogi was famous for it. But if you looked at it, there were patterns to it.
Yeah, there was a rhyme and a reason,
and that's the thing. And just because we don't see the rhyme and reason doesn't mean there isn't one.
Gotcha. Okay, we need to.
So I don't know. I don't know that it's necessarily bad, but I do. It looks funny, but I haven't dug into it enough to figure out anything about it.
All right, start digging. I mean, look, Big Boss last year was ridiculous. Let's just say what it was. I mean, he had wildly timed hit and runs. He made goofy pitching changes or didn't change a pitcher at all. I remember I tweeted with Jason and I said, "What is he waiting for?" And Jason's because the pitcher was getting his head bashed in, and Jason said he's waiting for somebody to go out there and change the pitcher. I mean, it was ridiculous. But I did hear a color analyst, and I apologize because I don't remember what his name was. I was listening on the radio, and he said, Shinjo has matured this year as a manager a little, but not enough. And, he has transformed and he's still running around as the masked man. And I think that's intentional, especially as hot as it is. There's no need for it. But I just think there's a lot of pent up frustration among the players because I'm not sure they actually know what the plan is. And they might have been told and maybe they just can't follow it, but they don't always seem happy with some of the moves that are going on. And they're trying to perform and they're trying to do your best, but I think he's still hampering what's going on in terms of the play. And to me, that's why these 1-run games are a big deal, because he has to help get his team over the hump. Now you're going to lose maybe half of those things, but for them to come in succession like they're coming, and I mean they were 14-11 in May, and they had a winning streak as well. But they really haven't looked like that, since we got out of, since we got into interleague. They've been looking pretty bad, and I don't know. The pitching staff to me is overperforming, but the lineup and the lineup has been generating enough offense, but he's tinkering and doing things at ill-timed instances in the game or situations in the game. And I think that's what's slowing him down. I got to be honest, but I had him finishing third, and I think they're going to make a push somehow. And again, he just needs some maturation as a manager. And I think he really has to pull him aside. And I think somebody will, because they look like they have enough to get into third place. And they should not be in fifth place, let's say, in the Pacific League right now. They've lost too many games in a row here. So once they get back to winning, I think they have enough pitching, and I think they can get into the top 3 and get a playoff spot. But let's move on. Let's go to the Eagles, and I'm doing the Eagles. The Eagles 37-43 right now. They're in fourth place, and they just had their 8-game winning streak snapped tonight, and they came from ahead to do that. Had a 2-run wild pitch that really did them in this game, and then a hit that got past the center fielder. Unfortunate, but it happens. So their winning streak is gone, but they have really been bad and underperforming. And a couple guys got hot, especially Hideto Asamura recently. He's right there in the running for a home run title now because he has gone on a binge here with bashing the ball here and there. And they look good to me in that respect right now, but I don't know where this is coming from, and I don't know where it's headed. They just haven't had enough power. We talked about the fact that they didn't have enough power in the off season, and coming into our prediction shows. And then we talked about Michael Franco. Maybe he could add some pop. He really hasn't added that much pop. Ito Yukiya, the guy who hit the first home run at Escon Field, Hokkaido, came out of nowhere. He has almost as many home runs as anybody else on the team except for Asamura. So they really haven't solved that problem. Then there's the problem of Masahiro Tanaka. He has been a shell of himself. I know he pitched a couple of games here and there, but I like to call guys like that sometimes Jones. And sometimes he's around and he's jonesing, and other times he's not. He's less than steady Eddie. They don't have a lot of strikeout guys on their staff. They're last as a staff in K rate. The bullpen ERA is bottom 3 in MPB, and the starting pitchers have the second highest ERA in Japan, and it's about 3.5. So I don't know where they go in the second half to get higher. I don't know how they're winning these games right now, other than to say this guy Itsuki Murabayashi has been a godsend for them, and I don't know where he came from and why he was on the farm for so long, but he's ripping it. He's ripping it for them, and he's getting on, and he has kick-started the offense, and that has really helped. But how long does that last? We've seen guys have a little flash and then disappear. Anyway, Michael, what do you think about the Eagles?
I think that Ishii GM needs to find a new manager.
He's not the general manager.
He's not the GM anymore.
Oh, he's not the general manager anymore. Oh.
Maybe the manager fired the general manager.
Picked the wrong job.
He does seem to be lost when I've seen him in the dugout. It's probably because the players on the field are not doing what he wanted them to do or what he expected them to do. But he just doesn't seem to quite be there all the time. And yeah, the team is struggling. I don't know of any scandals like the Lions had, which are breaking them down.
Can't blame it on the bad boy, huh? Roxton needs a bad boy.
Matsui returned to being the closer, and he's mostly been effective as the closer. A couple of games that I've seen, he's struggled, but he's managed to close the games out. So when they do have the lead, they do tend to be able to hold on to it. But the problem is just getting that lead.
Yeah. Well, they got a terrible offense, and the seventh and eighth inning is, I mean, Matsui has been good. He had a little hiccup at the start of the season, but he's been good. But getting it to him with a lead has been hard. And then tonight, Tomohito Sakai, who is one of these, I don't know, he's had really bad days and really good days.
Good days, sometimes Jones.
Yeah, exactly. So it's an inconsistency. Sung Chi-hao is a quality pitcher, but he's usually the sixth or seventh inning guy. The starting pitching has been really, really bad. We've seen Takayuki Kishi. It's like every year he just gets a little farther from that guy who was always good whenever he was able to pitch. He's been a little inconsistent. You still see flashes of brilliance, but the offense, I think the offense has been, they've depended so heavily on Hiroaki Shimauchi the last couple of years that the hole in his bat has just left a gaping hole in their offense. And as much as I like Yuya Ogo, his stepping up, it's just not there. And Hiroto Kobukawa, one of the things with the Eagles is the defensive positioning seems to be kind of a puzzle for Mr. Ishii as well. And as far as him looking lost, I think, again, that's his persona. I think that's the image he's trying to project, kind of thing. It's a sort of a Shinjo defense mechanism. But no, I agree. Some of the stuff he does seems pretty peculiar, but I don't know where that comes from.
All right, Claudio.
Well, I had the Eagles finishing last, and that's where they were until recently. My main point was always, okay, yes, these guys have a really big names in the lineup and the roster, but all these are veteran guys that are not performing the way they used to perform before. It seems like every now and then, a decent player in Japan that becomes a national free agent ends up going to Rakuten and joining the team. And okay, you have all these big names all together, but again, they're just getting old. They're not performing as well as before. They're, plus the front office situation and Ishii not being the greatest manager in the world. I said, okay, I don't think these guys are going to go anywhere. So my prediction really was for them to finish last. Other than this 8-game winning streak they just had, I think they're going to finish there. I don't see them improving a lot.
Beautiful. Jason, have you gone yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
There's not much to say. I mean, Masahiro Tanaka has a 4.43 ERA. Hiroaki Shimauchi is batting 177 with like 4 home runs. I mean, they're bad on both sides. I mean, they caught a little fire here recently, so the overall season when it's over is going to look better because they'll have this little stretch to look back on for whoever's going to be managing them next year. But yeah, they need some improvement. I think the experiment's over with Tanaka and Kishi, and that was supposed to be the lights out lineup on pitching staff, right? Those guys, the rookie Takahiro Norimoto, who's been average, I guess. This is the best you can say about him this year. So yeah, I'm sort of with Claudia. I don't think they're gonna do much, and once this hot streak dissipates, they'll kind of float back down or close to the bottom. I don't know if they'll finish last, but it's not looking good.
Yeah, I really don't know. I mean, I've seen some of the games, and Murabayashi has been doing well, but I don't know how they're doing this either. Tanaka pitched really well one day, and Norimoto didn't pitch well the other day, but somehow they scored enough runs to cover that up. The Hawks, and that's Claudio up next.
Well, the Hawks are right now in third place with a record of 43, 35, and 2. My original prediction was second place. A lot of people chose SoftBank to win this year. because they had some good signings. They have a good team, but my point with them has always been, I mean, since the dynasty ended back in 2020.
Dynasty has never ended.
Yeah, well, my point has been that they've always relied on a successful, productive foreign power bat. Like whenever they have a good foreign hitter in the heart of the lineup, they do well. When they don't, they tend not to do good. So, once they decided not to renew Alfredo Espaine and Yuris Belgracial, and that was clear because they hadn't done well for the past 2 years. But when they decided not to renew them, and so let's hire some new people, and the choices they made were Williams Astudillo and Courtney Hawkins and Freddy Galvez was there from last year.
Yeah,
I thought, okay, these guys are not going to produce like Despinedine in his best years. So I'm not, and they have really good Japanese players. I mean, this is a really good organization. They develop good players and stuff, but they're still lacking that foreign power that they need to win. And that has happened this year. You see them that they win some games. They have some good pitching. They're Japanese players. Kondo is doing very well. Yanagita has kind of come back to his best version or close to his best version, but they still need a foreign power hitter to help them. And they're not Astudillo's not doing anything. Galvez not doing anything.
They're
Hawkins
eating.
not doing anything.
They're eating well.
And they in a desperate move, they re-signed Alfredo Espaine, thinking I don't know what, because that's not gonna change. I mean, his best years are gone. He's not gonna come and hit 25 homers. From,
I always
from
say
now
with him. But I always say with him, he's like the dead bug, and you go to poke him, and he gets up and scurries away because he's a postseason producer. Now I don't know that he's going to do it, and they're going to keep poking him with the stick until he doesn't move anymore. But I think that was probably the thinking is we'll bring him in, we'll get him ready for the second half in the playoffs, and see if we can get him to scurry. But yeah, I agree with you.
They're gonna do it like Takuya Kai. I laughed my heart out the other day when I saw a video of Takuya Kai. I don't know if you saw it. Takuya Kai saying hi to the Spiner when he came back, and then grabbing his belly like this, saying, "Are any home runs here? Do you have any home runs here?" It was hilarious. Like it was.
I didn't see that. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, again, I think they're gonna make the playoffs. I think they can maybe try to get to the Japan series, but I don't see them winning the title. So they're in third place right now. They could end up third or second. They could finish first. But I don't see them though. I don't see them getting there.
All right, Michael.
The Hawks are definitely a franchise team. They've got so many layers to their farm teams that they're always going to have players who can come up, but I haven't really seen anybody come up and really perform like they had back when Kudo was manager. Kudo seemed to be able to bring out the potential in the various young players that he brought up, and I just don't see that happening right now. I see a lot of veterans who are aging, and not aging well. So yes, they've got the institutional memory, they've got the institutional conveyor belt of bringing players up, but it's just not quite working out the way it's supposed to. And I've had them finishing in third place, just because of that institutional backbone behind the Hawks. So it doesn't matter who's managing. It doesn't matter who they have on the top team. They're always going to have players who can perform at about the third place level is what it's looking like.
Look at you perform. Multitasking. Jim.
The Hawks have been a bit of a mystery. The lack of a big power hitter to to give them that power core that they haven't really had for a few years. Ryoda Kurihara looked like he was going to be it this year, but he got that all out of his system in the first 3 weeks.
Yep.
And he's going back to wondering if he's hurt again. It's like, is he still on the team? He's been a non-producer. He's become a singles hitter now. That's what's up with that. I don't know. Yuki Yanagita is just looking tremendous, like he can, but it's really been a one-man show. Taisei Makihara is morphing into the guy he looked like last year when he was really, really good in a kind of a short season for him, but remarkably better than he had been the rest of his career. What's left is not a lot. Kenta Imamiya has been, he's been fine, but the starting pitching, Shuti Ishikawa is a shadow of that guy who looked like he was going to be the next big guy. And if it weren't for Tomohisa Ozeki, that pitching staff would be in serious, serious deep trouble. Now, can they be better in the second half? Oh, absolutely. I don't know right now who is on the Hawks farm team who can come up, but I do think Carter Stewart Jr. is going to be dynamite in the second half. Now, he was really good. He was really good in 2021 on the farm. And it was basically his control and was the one issue that was holding back on the farm. And he told me the other day that his splitter was really good that year on the farm. And then something happened. He had a catastrophic injury in spring of 2022 when he ripped his rectus abdominis, I think is what it's called, which is your abs. It's one big sheet of muscle. He ripped it. He had to learn to breathe differently. I'm not kidding. Well, I mean, that's what he said. He had to learn, okay, I need to engage my abs when I'm doing this and disengage when I'm doing that. So he's like, in a sense, his body is like much older than he is now. And it's like back in the day when, we drove these cars that were not all electronics, and you learned about your car because of the things that broke down. You learned about your car because of the things that have broken down. He's becoming very knowledgeable about his body in the ways that a 22-year-old shouldn't be.
Yeah, when you get injured, you learn a lot of things about your body.
And his pitching, the quality of his pitches since he came back this year have been outstanding. And I think he's going to be really, really good in the second half. Now, okay. One of the things you need when a team's going bad, you need somebody to be an anchor along that. I mean, and he could be it. He could be the guy that everybody says, we got to keep up with Carter Stewart. If that happens, the Hawks could finish first or second. They're that team. They're also the team that could be third.
I think the Hawks, they're sort of, in a way, they're kind of getting by muscle memory just because they just have so many talented players that every game, a couple guys can pop up and do enough for them to win. And I think they're probably gonna keep doing that because, like Jim said, that pitching staff has just been in shambles. But although I've been really happy to see more of Carter Stewart getting a chance, and hopefully he'll continue to develop. I don't know why they got Despaigne back at all, and Richard Sunagawa must just be absolutely doing nothing. I haven't really checked the farm numbers for them recently, but Sadahara O is really high on him in the spring. Well, I don't know if Sadahara O is really high on him, but he voiced a lot of hope that Sunagawa would do something this year, that he was telling them, don't worry about striking out, just worry about hitting and getting better. So for him to say all that, and then for this kid really to not get a sniff is interesting to me. And they would go get a retread like Despaigne, who I don't know what he was doing. Maybe Claudio knows what he was doing when he was gone, but he doesn't look like it doesn't look like he hasn't gotten his rhythm back at all. And I don't know if it's gonna come back. So, but that said, I still fully think they could finish in first place. I mean, that's just the way it is at the top. It looks like those guys, and they just have so many players. And if like I said, those guys kind of pop up every now and then. If they get on a roll like the Eagles are on a roll right now, then that could be enough to put them over. And if they get some pitching, if some of those guys have a better second half, and Mornello gets back, if he's gonna come back, and their bullpen, they've got the guy at the end, Osuna, he's doing well. But yeah, I think it's just kind of muscle memory. They're that good. They're that deep, and they'll probably finish it. They're going to finish in the top 3 for sure.
Yeah, this team is like the opposite of the Fighters. Like they'll win 1-run games just because they know how, and because the manager seems like he's competent and smooth and poised in those situations. Whereas the Fighters don't have that. But the Hawks, they have the fewest quality starts in NPB. That's kind of weird because we look at their staff and it's not full of tomato cans or anything like that. But the bullpen ERA is 2.63, so it's just higher than the Fighters bullpen ERA. And yes, I did say the Fighters actually have a decent bullpen ERA. And the Hawks, they score runs, but they just haven't been scored in the right order. They'll score a bunch one time and then not any. Like today, they had 2 runs against the Buffaloes and lost. What is that? 8 consecutive losses for them today? Or I believe it was 8. And Yanagita, as awesome as he is, and as awesome as Kensuke Kondo has been, probably more than they could have hoped for as a free agent. I think he's on pace to surpass his career total for a season in home runs, and he looks really good, and he hasn't gotten injured yet.
He's done it already.
Okay, he did it already.
I think I'm not sure. I think it was 11. He's got 12 now.
Yeah. So, Carter Stewart Jr., we talked about him coming on and all those things. They just need the rotation to straighten out and throw deep into games so that they don't have to tax the bullpen, because I'm seeing guys now come up and I'm like, well, who's this? I got to go to the book and look, and not that they're a bad pitcher or anything. It's just that these are guys I haven't seen before. I don't know what they do. I don't know where they throw. I don't know where they came from. I never heard of them. How'd you get that uniform? So, but I had them finishing at the top of the PL. They're in third. They're right there. They just need something. That the Despaigne signing, Claudio, it's like going back to an old girlfriend. It's like, well, or an old lover or something. Well, they're still there and I'm here, so let's get it on. So they're just
how many times did Zureta come back to the Fighters mid-season?
I don't know if it was Zureta who came back to them a couple times, but they just maybe that's what the DNA is of the organization. But I still think another guy gets hot and tries and as competent as at the plate as Yanagita for a stretch, just a month. A month of good Kurihara could do it. A month of really good Kondo could do it. A month of Akira Nakamura being really good could do it. And I think this team can still win. But the way they looked in that series, or the series opener today against Oryx, it's going to be a tough road to climb, and they're going to have everybody contribute. But I think Carter Stewart's going to get his first Japanese NPB victory soon, and I think the Hawks are going to at least be in first or second. So we'll see how that plays out. Let's move along. We're behind pace here. We've got the Marines, and that's Michael.
Okay, the Marines are currently in second place with a 42-30-4 record. They've got a +9 run differential, and they have absolutely dominated against the Fighters and Lions, but have been pretty much even against Oryx and SoftBank. So also at home, they are 25-10-2, whereas on the road, they're 17-20-2. So far and away, their home record, they're more comfortable at home than anywhere else. And I've heard that Doki Sasaki is also more comfortable in the swirling winds of Zozo Marine Stadium than like any of the dome stadiums where they don't have any wind. In home games, they've outscored their opponents 34-16.
In home games or home night?
Home runs.
Home runs. Okay, yeah.
I'm not reading right.
All right. 34-16. They've out
34 home runs at home and 16 away. So this is what is contributing a great deal to their really good home run or home record is the number of home runs they're getting. The lagoon out there is really helping them, of course. On the pitching side, opponents are slugging 329 at home and 375 on the road. So their pitchers are also performing better and giving up less runs, although more home runs at home, but less bases allowed, total bases, I guess it is.
Fewer total bases, okay.
At home than away. They've scored 154 runs at home while allowing 109 runs up until Friday. And let's see, while on the road, they've only been able to score 111 while allowing 149. So for the Marines, it's home and away. They're Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. That seems to be their main domination area and their biggest weakness.
Okay. All right, Jason.
I don't know how the Marines are in second place.
Right?
It's just like, I don't know, smoke and mirrors or something. They just know how to win games. I mean, I'm as much of a person who likes to look at data, predictive data, and just everything. And sometimes you just have a team that knows how to win games. And they've got a lot of veteran players. They play well. I don't know, but I thought before the season that Koki Yamaguchi was going to have to, be the kind of that their power threat, and that Hisanori Yasuda is going to have to do that. And neither one of them has done much. They're both Yasuda's batting 227 or no. 250 something. Yamaguchi's 227. Shogo Nakamura's had a horrible season at the plate, but he comes around every now and then and does something. But their pitchers are good. Roki Sasaki speaks for himself. Atsuki Taneichi is the only bad thing that I can say about Roki Sasaki is that people will probably not give Taneichi the respect that he deserves because he's had a pretty good season and he's a really good pitcher. And I don't think enough people are going to see that just because we're all blinded by Roki. Me too. But they have a competent closer, but he makes it very interesting at the end of games. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is about the Marines. Their stats say they should be down with the Eagles and the Fighters and the Lions, but they're winning games. So what else can I really say about them? I don't know why they are.
Well, they've outscored their components by 25 runs.
Is that at home or that's overall?
Overall.
Overall, they were.
Yeah, but you said they built up
going into interleague. Yeah, they put it on here recently. They were going into interleague and it was not. They were lower than that before. But again, they're a good team. They're in second place. They're not. You don't get to be there by accident. They're winning games. They're winning games for a reason. I just don't know what it is.
Yeah, and Michael, you also said they built up a lot of home equity.
Yeah, that's basically it.
Claudio, what are you seeing?
Well, I agree with Jason in the sense that I didn't expect. I predicted the Marines to finish third. I liked what they had. I thought Polanco could help them. Mercedes could help them. The signings that they did during the offseason, I thought it was going to help them improve compared to last year, and I had them finishing third. But they have performed way better than I expected as they keep winning these games. You don't really understand how. They were in first place for a while. They have been doing, even though they had injuries and everything, they have been doing pretty well. I like the way Mercedes has pitched, even though he just has a 3-5 record and ERA is 3.22 or something like that. I don't remember. But he has been doing well. Didn't get much run support, but he's been pitching fine. Luis Perdomo has been great for them. He's leading the PL in whole points. And Polanco hasn't been great, but he has driven in some runs. He has 31, 32 runs batted in. So he helps. He hasn't been great. He's not hitting as many home runs as he did last year with the Giants, but he has been helping the team, even though his average is pretty low. So it hasn't been that bad. And, I think the way they are, they're going to at least make it to the playoffs. I don't think they have enough to win it, but they're going to make the playoff. I think they're doing well.
Okay, Jim.
The Marines are a case of, who is this guy and why is he doing as well? And how come the guys we kind of remember their names aren't? It's you look at them and Yudai Fujioka is like their big offensive player, and you're going, okay. But I look at things like Katsuya Kakunaka proving that he's no longer dead. I mean, he's had these games where he's carried the team, and this is something that really hasn't happened in a few years. It's a broad contribution, and something Hirokazu Sawamura said to me that really struck that hit home is with this team approach is he said the thing about Masato Yoshii is he'll take players who are in danger of being down on themselves, who have not been performing up to their own expectations, and he'll use them in leverage situations. He'll use them in games as pitchers. He'll use them in games when they're winning. As hitters, he'll use them in situations where they need something. They need them to produce something. And of course, they're not going to always work, but when they do, it makes these guys believe in themselves. And so much of baseball is a confidence. He said the words he used were it gives them passion as far as what they're capable of doing in a baseball game. And I think that is such a true thing about the Marines. They're this team without stars, other than Roki Sasaki and Atsuki Taneichi. But Yuji Nishino, as the aforementioned Yuji Nishino, is one of these pitchers who's been frequently good. So they're a team without stars, but they're also a team that has gotten broad-based contribution from more people than they really, you don't expect this to happen. Usually you look at a team and say, could this team win a pennant if, their third best player was this good? Well, the Marines could conceivably win a pennant whose third best player is probably not as good as the Yakult Swallows' sixth best player. Just because they've got that average, that better than average contribution all over the place.
Okay. I look at the Marines, I say this is not just Sasaki and the Pips. Nishino is good. Taneishi is good. One guy who is struggling, Ojima, he got knocked out today. I think he hasn't won in more than 6 weeks, maybe. So he might be in danger of losing his spot in the rotation. But the rotation has been pretty good. And the problem is the ERA of the bullpen, which is 3.5 plus. So I think only the Giants bullpen is higher, has a higher ERA. So you touched on Jim Masato Yoshii, the manager, rookie guy. He's not wasting bullets with more talented pitchers sometimes, and he's using everyone out there to help carry the load throughout the season, not trying to wear his guys out. And they're still doing a great job, a fantastic job, because I predicted that they would finish fourth, and they're in second place. I think they're doing a fantastic job of working together, everybody getting a hand on the load to carry it over the distance. And I think they just have the destination in mind, and they're enjoying the journey, and everybody's getting a shot to do that. And I would like to see Polanco get into a groove. I would like to see guys like Katsuya Kakunaka get more time and get more hits and be more productive, and the offense just be a regular rolling machine. But I don't think they're going to win games like that. I think it's going to be, we're going to see some guys one day and we won't see them maybe for a week, and they pop up and get a hit, and or pitch a game and do well. Manabu Mima has one of his pro games where he throws 7 or 8 innings, a 2-run ball, and they scramble up enough runs to win, because that's just what they do. But I do think the Yoshi situation is helping in that it's allowing these players to just go out and play. And I think he keeps it loose. I think he keeps it light. And I think he's one of the reasons that the team is producing this way, because that's the kind of atmosphere he likes. And I think it's atmospheric pressure. He's making it happen. He's creating that atmosphere in which these guys can go out and just, like you said, Jim, the guy goes out and sometimes it's going to pay off and sometimes it won't, but it's no big deal. We'll get him tomorrow. Yoshi's a laid back guy. I don't think, there's no uptightness that you get in Yomiuri land. There's no pressure that you have in other areas. I think these guys are just going out and playing, and we're seeing the results of that. So it looks like fun.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go to the Oryx Buffaloes. That's Jim.
Buffaloes are really easy. They, despite losing Tomoyo Mori, who was their big the big wheel in the beginning of the season, and he's probably going to be out for another month or so. They're really unstoppable right now. Yutaro Sugimoto came back, and he looks like it's 2021 again. Yuma Mune has not been the big guy. Yuma Tongu has been, the other side of that duo has been amazing. It's an interesting combination. They're more or less the same team they were a year ago, but with different pieces. It was a different guy in center field. It was a different guy at second base. But again, the manager is a big difference. Satoshi Nakajima is the laid back. I mean, he's another one of these really laid back. I'm not going to make a big deal about it. I'm not going to make a fuss about it. He's got a little bit of that old school, old fart thing in him, but it doesn't come out very often. Yoshi's got probably at the minimum. He's probably a little bit closer to that. But no, I think it's a very positive approach with all the players. No big deal. He's letting everybody play. And I love Leandro Cedeno. He's a big teddy bear of a guy. And just positive and bubbly. And you can see the joy, and you can see the team embracing him. And that's the bad side of Oryx. The good side is that starting pitching. I mean, just electric. I mean, Yoshinobu Yamasaki, Hiroyo Miyagi, Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Okay, let's go with the starting pitching. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Hiro Miyagi, Sachi Yamasaki, Taisuke Yamaoka, who was, he's their Mr. Opening Day starter for a couple of years. He's kind of lost out because he hasn't improved as much as the rest of the group. It's a really, and then the weird thing is they've got these really big starters, and then we see Jarrell Cotton. I don't know if they're stretching him out or he's just going to be their perpetual short starter the rest of the season, because he hasn't seen 18 batters in a game yet. You just got to like what they're doing.
Yep. You didn't mention Shunpeita Yamashita, and
I did not.
Yeah, we got lots of Yamas out there, as we talked to and acknowledged here last week.
We did.
And Kotaro Crash Kurebayashi just really now rounding into form this season. And they have been playing well. They've been playing steady. They haven't been too high, too low. I like what the Oryx Buffaloes are doing. I like what, like you said, the manager. I'm not sure that it's all manager this season. I think the guys now, because we used to tease, of course, Claudio, we talked about the fact that they were the bumbling, fumbling Buffaloes who couldn't do anything right. And we haven't had to talk about that for the past 2+ seasons now. They have righted the ship defensively. They don't make the same mistakes. And some of these players who were making those mistakes in the field are now coming up and getting spot chances to play and doing well for this team. So I think the whole mindset has turned around. It's like the organizational DNA has changed a little bit, but I'm not sure I expect this team to win, but I do look at this team in the playoff situation, and I think that this is the deepest rotation that we have in MPV, and easily could win the pennant again and go to the Japan Series and win that again too, with all the talent and young talent. And we did see Yoshinobu Yamamoto come out today, and I think he had second and third situation with nobody out and just get the outs he needed. Didn't give up a run there, gave up a home run later, but the base is empty, and then he left and got the win today. So I really liked Oryx. I had him finishing in second place, but I could easily see them. I mean, they're in first place now, and I could see them staying there rest of the season as long as people are healthy. And you think when Morty comes back, they're even going to be better offensively. Michael.
Buffaloes, unlike the Marines, are pretty much even home and away. 23-17-1 at home, 23-15-1 on the road. They're very balanced. They're consistent. Everything that you want in a championship team. I really didn't expect any team to win 2 championships in a row, let alone 3. But I did pick the Buffaloes to finish in first just because I didn't think the Marines were a first place team, and I didn't think the Hawks were a first place team. And those were my top 3 picks. So the Buffaloes just kind of fell back into my first place pick, and they're consistent. They are aging, players are leaving, but players are coming up to take the place of those who leave. It's the perfect situation. Everything is flowing well in Buffalo land.
Okay, Claudio?
Well, yeah, I picked the Buffaloes to finish first as well. I think they have a really good chance to win it. They may come up in second, but as you said, with that starting rotation, that pitching staff they have, they could easily win any postseason series and make it to the Japan Series again. The reason why I think the Buffaloes have the edge over everybody else is that they are not as dependent on foreign hitters as other teams are. Like I already mentioned, that the Hawks really need a big foreign hitter to help them. While for the past 2 years, the Buffaloes didn't need any foreign hitter to help them out. They were able to do everything on their own without the help of any big foreign bat. So, with the pitching staff they have, plus not needing anybody else, being able to produce the runs they need to win, all with their own players without any help from the imports, then it's easy to see how they could win it, because they have everything they need. They don't depend on anybody else. So it's a very close race right now with low tens of bank. So they could come up second or maybe even third. But again, with that super pitching staff they have, I think they can win any postseason series they have to face and make it again to the Japan Series.
Okay, Jason.
I'm in agreement. I think they look, at least for the first half of the season, very complete. That pitching staff, everyone's talked about it already. It's amazing that they lost Masataka Yoshida, who is tearing it up in MLB, and they kind of replaced him with Tomoya Mori, Yuma Tongu, and then Kotaro Kuribayashi was always kind of a hole in the lineup, and he's hitting really well this year. So it's been
I disagree that he was a hole.
He was batting like 224. Well,
he was 19. I would call. I mean, and he was
19 doesn't make up for him not really putting up much numbers, though. Just because he was 19, he still wasn't putting up really good numbers.
19-year-olds, that's what they do. They're inconsistent. But I mean, he wasn't great. But I think
he wasn't great because
a hole.
He was nice.
A hole is Diane Viciedo. That's a hole.
That's
what it looks like
until this year.
That's what we call a hole.
He just had a lot of value in the field, more than Viciedo does. But anyway, in any event, he's playing really well this year. He is a good player, and the Buffaloes seem to have a lot of good players, and they're doing really well. Everyone has already talked about the pitching staff, so I won't even go into that. I think we have what it takes to finish first. So it's going to be a close race between the top 3, which should be fun to watch.
All right. I think. Oh, go ahead, Jim.
The last thing I'd like to say about the Buffaloes, I think we touched on, or something that occurred to me just as I was listening to people talk, is one of the shifts about the Buffaloes. We've talked, I talk about it incessantly, so I needn't repeat it. A byproduct of changes within the organization is something Sotaguchi told me about 10 years ago, where Buffalo's regulars, once they earned a starting job, they would coast. That was the company culture. And what you see now is, I'm at the park the other day and I see Shuhei Fukuda, and I'm thinking, wow, that guy used to be pretty good. And I'm not thinking he used to be pretty good, but I'm thinking that the competition for starting jobs, which was once, you get a job and you're tenured until you stop playing and they trade you. And then the other team reminds everybody how good this guy used to be with Oryx. Is fierce. I mean, these guys really, to me, look like the SoftBank Hawks of 3 or 4 years ago, where there's no standing. If you're standing still with the Buffaloes, you're out of a job, because there's just the competition is cutthroat right now. And not in a bad way, but in a positive way. And that's what Nakajima is doing. He's saying, look, I'm going to use you all, and the guy who does the job is the one who gets to keep it for now. But it's a good team, and it's a good team. It's not a mystery.
All right, we've got to pick up the pace and do the Central League a little bit fast. And let's start with the last place team in the Central League as we make this 4-team transition. And we're going to start with Claudio and the Dragons.
All right. Well, so the Dragons are in last place right now with a 33, 47, and 2 record. My prediction was that they were going to finish third. My hopes for that, I realize they seem very naive at the moment, but my hopes for that was that my point was that Junichi has always had a good pitching staff, and what they needed was offense, and they did really good signings. They signed Aristides Aquino, they signed Soylo Almonte and Orlando Calixe. So they addressed what the problem was. I said at the beginning, there's no guarantee that it's going to work, but at least they tried. At least they did what they were supposed to do. Now, it hasn't worked, but I don't think it hasn't worked because just because the guys are not hitting. I think a big part of the fault here is Tatsunami's fault. Like, he's having this, I don't know, he's too uptight. He's not giving enough opportunities to the guys to show that they can hit. I think, I don't know if it's injured or anything, but I think especially Almonte, who has previous experience in the league, if you let him play, I know he may be hitting not much, but he has the experience to pick things up, to get some home runs, to drive in some runs. Maybe he's not going to be great, but he's probably going to do better than whatever replacement they have right now on the top team. So, give these guys more of a chance. Don't panic when they're not hitting for 4 games or whatever. Don't send them down just because, you're not hitting 20 homers as I hope you would be. It's like, the season hasn't ended yet. Just give them a chance. They're in last place. Most likely they won't make it out of there. Again, I think we have to look at Tatsunami and say, hey, dude, you should take a leave of absence as it's customary in Japan and let somebody else try to improve this team.
Michael.
I don't get the impression that Tatsunami necessarily didn't want the job. It doesn't seem like he really wants the job either. Or he has any idea of what the job entails.
High five to you, Michael.
The Dragons just seem to be lost. They've got a good team. They came back today in amazing fashion, beating the Tigers at Koshien. And it's that kind of gumption, that kind of hard play, trying to until the very end, that the Dragons definitely seem capable of. And every once in a while, you see it come through. But they just don't seem to have a fire under their feet. I don't know what it is, but I also have them picked for last.
High five to you. Jason.
I thought they would be better this year, and so I'm obviously disappointed to see that they're not, because I probably picked them out of last place because I put the carpet last place. But in any event,
Yeah.
of course, Seiya Hosokawa, who finally gets his chance and is doing really, really well, and it's just kind of not all for naught, but he's not going to be playing past the end of the season because they're not scoring runs, which is what they usually do, but they're doing well pitching. And Rydell Martinez is just absolutely electric. He's just knocking them down. But how often are they getting him the lead to get the ball? But I don't actually think the Dragons have been particularly horrible. I just think that it's kind of Tatsunami, which is, I guess, a kind of beating a dead horse because everyone else has talked about him. John, you'll probably talk about him too. But Tatsunami has just not been a good manager. I think he's held this team back, and I don't think they're just horrible, but they're not good, and that's really what matters, because in the standings is they're not good. I have anything else to say. They're not good.
Jim.
Right. What's the Dragons, as Michael said, and said that, they have this ability to be good on nights because they're professional baseball players, and and they have skills and they can put it together and things can go their way. They play hard, but my thing is that it's definitely Tatsunami holding them back because I think he completely lacks empathy for the players. He's basically a superficial, old school manager who really doesn't care about the players, because I find his employment of Kenta Bright to be a complete and total mystery. Let's have him learn how to play the first team, play at the major league level by having him sit on the major league bench. I don't get it. Lots of things that Tatsunami does, I don't get. I do love that he gave Seiya Hosokawa a chance because it wasn't clear that he was going to get one. And that's it. I mean, the pitching has not been as good as I would have expected. Hiroto Takahashi has not been as consistent as he was last year. Of course, that's because he was a lot of things can go into that, and I don't know what it is, but I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed by the Dragons. Again, lots of pieces. They have lots of pieces that could work, and they don't seem to be working. The lack of who's the catcher? Kinoshita.
Which one?
Takumi?
Takuya.
Takuya. That hurt. And I guess it probably hurt Tatsunami because he's got one less guy to blame for the team's failings. That seems to be his major MO, which is wait for things to go wrong and then pick on a player whose fault it is. As to be contrasted with some of the other managers we've talked about. So he's not really helping. And then now and then the guys are just too good to lose.
Yeah, I actually don't think Takuya Kinoshita, the loss of him is impacting the pitching staff that much. And then they've got Usami who's hitting well. But look, there's a lot of meat on this bone to pick with, the Dragons and the manager. And, they started the season, like Claudio said, addressing some of the needs. And Aquino was a bad pickup in the first place. He struck out a lot in the States, and he was not going to come over here and not strike out a lot. So I don't know what that was about. They didn't give Caliste that much of an opportunity, but he didn't really do much either. And Almonte there's no reason for him to even have a glove out there in left field. And they knew that, but they put him out there and he didn't catch balls. And they're like, look, we need you to catch balls. I'm like, well, then why am I here? Because I'm here to hit, So there's a lot of confusion. The organization looks rotten from the inside, from the head down, and everybody. You got guys underperforming, underachieving, including the manager and even the Pro Yaku News guys, the curmudgeons on Pro Yaku News who don't usually say anything about a manager, were perplexed by a recent move that Tatsunami made in a game, and they're like, I don't really understand the logic, but the manager must have had some reason. I'm like, no, don't shoot at him and then cover it up. I mean, if you're going to shoot at him, shoot directly, shoot to kill. But anyway, I mean, thank goodness for Hosokawa. They discovered this kid, Humberto Mejia, who looks like he can pitch. And look, they went into the season with the idea that Yariel Rodriguez would be on the team and that Yudai Ono was going to pitch and be their ace. And those two guys were gone. One suddenly, the other one almost as suddenly after he had pitched fairly well. But they've rebounded. Akiyoshi Katsuno has found a place in the bullpen. He's pretty good. Tatsuya Shimizu has been really good out of the bullpen. He's good as the eighth inning guy. Rydell Martinez, I've been saying since, I don't know, since anybody would listen, that he was the best closer in Japan. And I think, what does he have? 23 of their 33 wins he has saved. So, I mean, they don't hit. They just don't hit. And I could say they have the lowest team OPS. They have the lowest slugging percentage. And they're incongruent in the way the manager played with the cerebral hitting approach and what they're doing up there at the plate. And at times, they look like they have no idea. Like there were no hitters meetings. They have no plan. They're just up there looking for a fastball. And if they get one, they're going to swing at it no matter where it is. And if they get something else, maybe they can foul it off. It's a mess. I don't know what to do about it. I don't see them crawling out of last place. I'm amazed that the Yakult Swallows have struggled the way they have. I'm amazed that the Lions can't manage to score more than the Dragons, because it doesn't seem that way to me because of all the shutouts. They've got at least 15. I didn't look up the number, but the last count, I know 15 times shutout in the first half of a season. They're a good team. They
on
just
the bright side,
games.
they've got the second best ERA.
Yeah, a lot of good it does them. So they don't lose, 5-0. They lose 1-0. Anyway, let's get off of this and go to the Swallows. Jim.
The Swallows are 33-46 as of Saturday. They're a very weird team. I mean, as bad as Munetaka Murakami has been, bad in comparison to what we expect from him, he's still leading the Central League in walks, and so he's got the on-base percentage.
Yeah, he's got a bunch of home runs too. I mean, he doesn't have a high average, but he's still good.
Not yet. But he has he's been the problem because he hasn't been last year's Murakami, but that hides the fact that last year so many of the other Swallows were firing on all cylinders, and this year Yasutaka Shiomi's been hurt most of the season. He was a really good player last year. Tetsuya Yamada was arguably a very good. He had a pretty good season last year, and he's been absolutely horrible this year. Hideki Nagaoka went from being somebody who was probably better, statistically better than he had not a right to be, but he was the very high end of his offensive spectrum last year as a first-year player, and this year he's near the bottom of his offensive spectrum. So that's happened to a few players. Jose Osuna has also been near the bottom of what he can be expected to do. There's 3 or 4 guys who fall into that category. Yuhei Nakamura is the same. Well, that's typical for catchers and for him, a good player. But it's just happened that a lot of these downturns have finished. The pitching has been horrible, but not really bad. In that sense, I mean, Dylan Peters and Cy Young have been Cy Young.
There it is. That's why I said they made him put Cy on the back of his jersey because they want people to think of Cy Young when they think of him. I said it, and you did it.
Thank you. Well, I'm old enough, so I remember Cy Young. Hey, he was alive when I was a kid, so yeah.
There you go.
There you go. So no, Cy Snead and Dylan Peters have been good. Keiji Takahashi has been good. He got sidelined a little bit. We see the snippets. It's the guys in between who have been who have not been good. And that's been really the problem. The bullpen, I don't want to even, they had a downturn in May, but they're back where they should be, which is pretty much as good as anybody in Japan.
All right, Michael.
The Swallows, as Jim said, Murakami not having the best of years, although he has been showing a lot of power recently. So I think that going into the second half of the season, Murakami may be back. Takatsu is doing the same thing that he has the past few years, and it's just not working. Right field is a bit of a problem. I think that a lot of unearned runs are happening out in right field. I've seen Osuna drop, I think, three balls in the last week.
Santana.
Santana, that's it.
Yes.
Santana, I think, has dropped 3 balls in the last week.
I'll say 2.5, because one of them I didn't think he should have caught. Yeah.
So it's really tough for the Swallows right now, but 232 batting average for the team seems rather low for the output at Jingu. I had the Swallows finishing in second in my prediction, but I did not expect them to fall like they have.
All right, Claudio.
I agree. I did not expect. I had and my prediction was for them to finish first again. They have good pitching, good hitters, and I thought they were going to have another great season. And I did not see that coming. They completely fell off the grid. They have some injuries, and as you said, most of the players who did really well last year offensively are not performing this year. Osuna's not doing bad, but it's not as good as you expect from him. Santana has a good average, 289 or something like that, but he's not hitting as many home runs and not driving in as many runs, and defensively he has been having issues. It's a big disappointment what happened to them this year. Although they still have the good team, they still have good players. If they pick it up, if they come back to their best versions, they can have a very strong end of the season. They could maybe even try to get into the playoffs. You never know. So, so far disappointing with what I've seen from them.
Yeah, I had them repeating as well. And I guess I hate the notion of just picking the past year's champion to repeat, because it just seems lazy to me. But I really didn't think there was another team. I did think the Hanshin Tigers could challenge, but the Tigers always seem to fall off in the second half. So I thought, well, if they fall off in the second half, the team that would be waiting right there to pounce would be the Swallows. But the Swallows just have, they don't hit with runners in scoring position. They don't get a lot of runners in scoring position. The team OPS is 5th in the CL. Some of the other numbers, what it was 212 is what they're hitting with runners in scoring position overall, and only Seibu is worse in NPV as of Wednesday. I looked at those stats. So Murakami looks like a guy who really was satisfied with the offseason and also had a lot to do and shouldered a lot of responsibility in the WBC and worked kind of maybe overworked himself perhaps in the early part of the year. And if he does come back and have, let's say, a 20 homer second half after the All-Star break, I think, the Swallows can make a run. I don't know what's wrong with the pitching other than, we haven't seen a couple guys who were there before being consistently in the rotation, but the guys that they're sending out haven't been terrible. Even
the over 40 club.
Yeah, their overall quality start rate is 37%. That's worse than Japan, but it's not like they're giving up a bunch of home runs. They're just not going deep into games most of the time. So I don't know. They just don't look like the same team. But here's the other thing. I don't like these trilogy stories And I don't want the same teams to go back to the Japan series 3 years in a row. That's boring for me. So I'm hoping that there's another representative from the Central League, even if the Buffaloes somehow make it back. And that would be more interesting to me, because if it's the same three teams, I'm going to mix them up in my head. I'm not going to remember what happened in the first series and second series and third series. It's all going to meld together. So for my own personal sanity, I just need a different Central League team to get to the Japan series this year, so that if the Buffaloes get there, I could differentiate when I'm talking about these teams. That's it. Selfish reasons, but I think the Swallows can make a second half run. I just don't think they will. I don't see, even if Murakami hits 20 home runs in the second half, I don't see the rest of the guys coming around. All right, let's go to the Giants, and that's Jason. Oh, you haven't done your Swallows thing. Go ahead, Jason, with the Swallows.
Well, I with the Swallows, I think that it's not unfortunate, but they kind of had a lot of bad things happen to them all at once. In a way, Yasunori Okugawa has been hurt and gone, and Keiji Takahashi and Murakami. He got in a funk about the time he hit number 55, I think it was 54 or 55, and then he was just, until he hit that home run against Mexico in the WBC, he was not right, and then he came back here and he was still not right until.
Was it a home run or a double?
Double. Yes, you're right. Sorry, home run was in the final, double against Mexico. But I think he's more or less he's getting his groove back. He's coming back. He may not end up with the high average, but I think his second half is going to be more representative of the type of player that he is. Their pitchers, I thought were going to fall back to earth this year more than they had the previous two, and their starters ERA is the worst in the league. Bullpen ERA is the worst in the league. But I do think they're a good enough team to make a run in the second half and put pressure on the Carp and the Giants to try to get into third place. So I think it'd be fun to watch them in the second half if they can get things together and get things going.
All right. Yeah. Sorry about that. All right. And let's go with the Giants, and that's you, Jason. So keep on talking.
That's me again. All right. The Yomiuri Giants are an even 40-41. So they have a tie in there. I picked them to finish in fourth place, and they are currently in fourth place. So thank you to the Giants for that. I guess the strength of this team is Kazuma Okamoto, because he's just been absolutely on fire this year. I think he's got 20 home runs now. His OPS is over 1,000. He's been just he put the captaincy on and just got all of the Shinosuke Abe power and just went crazy with it. But Yuto Akihiro has also been just a really good player for them, and Tatsunori Hara seems to have settled into him. Akihiro batting third, and Okamoto batting fourth, and Takumi Oshiro batting fifth, and then Shon Nakata. So that's been good for them. I think they have a pretty good lineup, and they just need a little bit more consistency. That's something that Hara has talked about in his post-game meetings, that we need to be more consistent. We need to score more runs. Pitching-wise, I think that Shosei Togo has kind of shouldered the load as the number one pitcher really, really well. I know Hara had talked about that he's looked a little different since he came back from the WBC. Some of that was probably confidence that he gained in America, and also he could pitch without Tomoyuki Sugano looking over his shoulder, because Sugano was gone for most of the first half of the season. I think Foster Griffin has been a pretty good pitcher for them. Even his record doesn't really show it, but his numbers do. Tyler Beatty is a guy, or I'm really sorry, I don't know how to say his last name. I forget all the time, but he is he has a potential to help that bullpen. He was not good as a starter, but he's been good since they brought him back and put him in the pen, and that pen has not been good. But if he can help stabilize that, then the Giants have all the pieces. If Sugano comes back well, Togo and Griffin keep pitching well, and they get a little bit of contribution from some of the other guys, Yamasaki, in their rotation, they have what it takes to. They're not catching both the Bay Stars or the Tigers, but they can fight the cart for third place.
Yeah, there's a lot of ifs in there. My prediction was fourth as well, and that's spot on at the moment, but there's a lot of baseball yet to be played. But this is a mishy-mashy, wishy-washy, unsteady mess, in my opinion. I see a lot of guys, early on in the season, it really was a question of who's on first, and the answer was everybody. They were putting everybody and anybody at first base, and then Nakata got injured, and that helped settle things down, actually, because they stopped putting everybody on first base. But left field, they've got guys running out to shortstop and second base. Hayata Sakamoto injured. Hara has a lot of toys to play with, and he has had to play with a lot of toys. So they don't have other than Okamoto, and I think he's the MVP, and I really think all the media members just want to vote for him for MVP, but he's not going to get it because they're going to vote for somebody. They're going to pigeonhole somebody in from the Tigers if it's them. If it's the Bay Stars, my pick would be Toshiro Miyazaki or Shugo Maki, either one of those guys. In fact, maybe Maki has a lot more impactful hits. But anyway, the whole experience with Hara and him walking out to the mound, you notice him taking out pitchers. He's the only one, it seems, in Japan who's going out there to remove pitchers and do pitching changes as a manager. Everybody else is sending their
Miura did it today.
Miura did it. Okay. All right. And he did it with Bauer. He went out there to have a conversation with him, probably because there's probably going to be a fist fight if he wanted to take him out. But anyway, I don't know. There's just I like what Togo is doing as the frontline guy, and they get Sugano back. You talked about Iori Yamasaki. He's been a credible starter, and Foster Griffin, who was a great treat as an interview on the show. Thank you for that, Jim. Had been a really good addition, but there are just so many questions, and they still have injuries to come. They got more probably veterans who are going to get hurt than they have credible or capable replacements to come up and take over. So I'm just going to say, hey, I still don't think the pitching is going to get them over fourth place, but if they can, they can, but they won't advance in the playoffs, I don't think. So best of luck to them, but they're still struggling. Claudia.
Well, I predicted the Giants to finish fourth as well. Not much to say. I would like to add that the Venezuelan Joander Mendez is doing well as a starting pitcher. He was injured for a while, but he came back and he's been pitching well for them. So I'm happy to see that. But in general terms, I don't know if it's only the players that are not performing the way they should, but I think somehow Hara has lost some of his magic touch. He used to be able just to come and make the team win every time. Like, it was no doubt he would come in, he would get the players in, and everybody would do their job, and he would win a title at the end and even get to the Japan series. But that's not the way it is anymore. He's just not at that level where every decision he makes is right and everything he plans or he does comes out well at the end. He's just he's trying, but he's not he's not he's not getting the hits as he used to do before. So I think on a way he's aging and his magic touch is kind of disappearing. So yeah, because of that, I expected the Giants to be in fourth place. They could make it. They have the talent to make it to the playoffs, but maybe they just stay where they are. I don't know. The Carp are playing really well, so it's not going to be easy to take them out.
Jim.
Okay, right. I don't want to point the finger anymore at Tatsunori Hara than I have, because it's pretty much locked there, carpal tunnel indicator syndrome. But I think his magic touch kind of died when he decided that he was a genius. And
you're talking a long time ago.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I think pretty much before he quit the first time. Come back and make things work. Well, he's good at a few things, but he's good at making plans. He's good at having a roster to execute some plans. One-run games he's really good at. Late innings, because he's got a plan and people believe in him. But I don't think anybody on that team believes he knows what he's doing. And that's a hard thing to overcome. The player, he's got some terrific players. I like the idea that Sho Nakata has come and and just played baseball.
Yeah, fit in.
Stop being a jerk, which was kind of his sideline.
We don't know that, but he doesn't seem to be doing anything stupid in front of the cameras.
We don't know that he stopped being a jerk, but I'm guessing from the quality of his play that he has been. That he's sort of put that aside, or he's keeping that side of his split personality away and focusing more on, and that's freeing him up to be a baseball player, which we've seen a few times in his career. Yoshihiro Maru is great. The players are really good. Hayato Sakamoto was sort of the scapegoat for this season going in. The Giants were really pushing hard on his being the reason the Giants weren't going to compete this year. And then he came back and he just started playing really, really well. And this has been his trademark. He's the guy who comes back, and when he plays, the Giants win. But his inability to stay fit has really bugged the hell out of that plan, because when he came back and he was playing well, they were winning. Now that he's not in the lineup, they're not. Tomoyuki Sugano, I just love the fact that he's come back and pitched well. That's got to be good going forward, and it's got to be a huge relief for Shosei Togo. They don't really have a closer right now. They had the problems, with the Hara team. It's sort of like, what's going to be the next problem?
Yes.
And for a while, it was the 8th inning, and now it's but he seems to have in sort of incorporated a Hanshin Tigers thing of having people on the field he can blame for the losses.
Every time something goes wrong, send Adam Walker down.
Exactly. It's Adam Walker, or it's Lewis Brinson, or it's some reliever or some starting pitcher. It's Iori Yamasaki. You don't have what it takes to pitch on the first team, so go learn how to do that on the farm. It's scapegoating on a massive level. And that's really, Hara's really good at that now. He's better at doing that than managing. So I don't really have any future. I really don't see any future for this team, because I think everybody knows they're just waiting to be the scapegoat. And as much as they are good players and they can catch lightning in a bottle, and when they play together, it's magnificent. And Naoki Yoshikawa is a tremendous player. And there's a bunch of, and Yuto Akihiro is a tremendous player, and they've got some tremendous pitchers, especially on the pitching staff. They know that one mistake and they're back on the farm. And that was the opposite of the Tatsunori Hara magic. It used to be, I'll give you a real chance and show me what you can do, and failure is okay. Failure is no longer really tolerated in Yomiuri land.
Mm. Okay, Michael?
I had the Giants finishing 5th, and I think that Jim described what the Buffaloes were before Nakajima came in to manage.
Mm.
Where everybody is in fear of being sent down again and not performing to their best ability. When the Bay Stars are playing against the Giants, I don't recognize half the team. I don't recognize more than half the team.
That's why I call them mishmashy. Yeah.
Yeah. So that inconsistency, and if what Jim says is true, the inability of Hara to keep players on their toes but not in fear, I think, is their major problem. And I really don't see him coming back this year and challenging for A class.
Yeah, it is Nakashima, right? The manager.
Oh,
I hear a lot of the
yeah.
radio announcers say Nakajima. I mean, it's it's what and what. It's Yamazaki. But yeah, we could blame a lot of these problems on some of these managers, and a lot of the problems on injuries, and there are other other factors.
Shukan Baseball says Nakajima.
Oh, really? That's
Yes.
interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
I can show it to you.
There's a Oryx. It's Satoshi Nakajima.
Yeah.
I was just talking about someone else.
Oh, okay.
Nakajima.
Satoshi
Yes.
Nakajima.
It is Nakajima. Okay. All right. Yeah, they mix it up all the time on TV. They say Nakajima. It's both. So I in my head it's both.
But
Unfortunately.
the Giants are only one game behind the Carp. It's not as if they're
Yeah, they're not out of it.
They're in it, but I just don't know why.
All right, so on to the Carp. They are 45 and 38 in third place at the moment. I had them finishing fifth. I was surprised that Jim, I think you had them finishing second, was it, Jim? Anyway, I know you had them finishing in the playoffs. And I just have one question about the Carp. Where are all these wins coming from? I mean, where? They're middle of the pack in home runs. They're middle of the pack in ERA. They're middle of the pack in runs scored. They're good in runs allowed, but they don't even have an MVP candidate on offense or on the mound, basically. I mean, maybe Alan Kudi could get a couple votes, but he's not even a Sawamura Award candidate because he didn't complete any games. I think he's got one. The closer has been banished to middle relief, and they brought in someone named Yasaki, who I think he's been around for a long time, but I think he had a save last year. That was his first one, and then now he's the closer. Ryan McBroom gone. Kaito Kozono just came back, and he was a farm boy until recently, and Kensuke Tanaka, I guess, was filling in and was productive. And Shogo Sakakura, I know Jim really likes and called him a guy who could be an MVP one day, and I still don't see that, basically, although he has some good moments. Where are all these wins coming from? I don't know. Jim's computerized crystal ball was really on it, I guess, and maybe this team is going to finish in second, but I don't know where everything's coming from. Maybe it doesn't matter, and a lot of it is coming from the manager, and Takahiro Arai is one of my favorite guys. I like talking to him, and just like Masato Yoshii at Lotte, I think he has created a really good working environment and growing environment for his players, and those players are just taking advantage of the opportunities that he's giving them. A lot of times you hear the players say, well, the coaches and manager put me in a good position to be successful, and I think that position is on the field, because if he puts you on the field, you just want to do your best for your teammates and for him and for yourself, and it becomes a selfless thing, and there's more focus. I don't know what it is. It's some kind of magic, but I mean, I know they have good players, but not everywhere, and they don't always produce. And like I said, it's not like they're tearing the cover off the ball in any one aspect. They do steal bases, and they take the extra bases. But still, I don't know where all this is coming from. And I see you making all kinds of faces, Jim, so I'll go to you next.
No, I wasn't. I was just thinking. I'm looking at different things, and I really don't have any read on Takahiro Arai as a manager. But he's certainly not messing up the team too much. He's not doing really dumb stuff, which was his predecessor's sort of trademark.
Won't say his name, huh?
No. As I said, I wouldn't have trusted him to manage a 7-Eleven. So I haven't really changed that much. Now, the thing with the Carp is, they do have 4 starting pitchers who've been very reliable. Alan Curry, Daiichi Osera. I know he has ugly games, but he also has really sublime ones. He's not an overpowering pitcher, but he's out there. He knows what he's doing. He makes adjustments, and he gets by. Hiroki Tokuda has been kind of the surprise of the season, although I'm not certain why. And Masato Morishita, whose season got off to a late start, has been quite good. As far as the offense goes, Sakakura, the big guy, of course, is Ryoma Nishikawa for the second year in a row. Of course, now he's out. I don't know when he's expected to be coming back. Shogo Akiyama has been sort of returned to being Shogo Akiyama, which is a nice surprise because he wasn't really last year. The bullpen, yes, the bullpen. Once I think that was the magic switch when they went from saying, Ryoji Kuribayashi he got hammered and shelled and every other adjective and adverb you can use, and just saying, okay, that's enough. Let's go with another guy. And now Kuribayashi is rebuilding himself in middle relief, and Takuya Yasaki is doing just fine. He's not, he's not overpowering, but that's really the Carp. They're not overpowering, but they have, they're the anti Lotte Marines. They've got a very stable core of guys who have been pretty good run producers and pretty good producers. Not household names and not all stars, but they're in that zone between being MVP and being just better than average.
Okay.
So I like, that's a solid core, and then they've got a second tier number of guys who are playing backup and doing nice. I think Matt Davidson is going to be a really big addition coming into the second half. And I'm looking forward to that from them.
All right, Michael.
The Carp have long been a team who can score a run on just one hit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, get a walk, get a steal, get a sacrifice, get a hit. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They manufacture runs, and that is what they are really good at. That's their core baseball image, is manufacturing runs out of nothing, it seems. So they've got a +9 run differential. They're hanging out in third place. I had them picked for fourth place, but it wouldn't surprise me if they finish third, or even if they finish second. They've just got a really good cohesion to the whole team, and everybody contributes, and it's all of those small contributions that turn out to be a lot of wins for the team. So yeah, I'm still liking the Carp, and I think that Araki as manager, Arai as manager, I think that he's somebody who wanted the job and is taking it seriously and doing all that he can to help the players put in their contributions to come out with wins.
Unlike another guy, you're saying? Hinting. All right, Claudio.
Guys, I'm so sorry. I have to leave early because I have to go to an appointment, but I'll say quickly, my prediction was for them to finish 5th, but I'm super pleasantly surprised with the way they have been playing this year. They've been playing really well. As Michael said, they produce the runs they need to win. Everybody's contributing, and I would give a very well-deserved recognition to Arai as manager. I think most of what's happening has to do with him and the way he's handling the team. The pitching is doing extremely well. Guys like Adam Curry have been having extraordinary year. That's not normal for them. They're doing way better than expected. And I see them making the playoffs. I think they can hold on. The way they're playing, they can hold on and make it the playoffs. I don't know if they're going to go too far there. But I mean, it's going to be an immense reward for them to make it to the playoffs when most people didn't expect them to. So I'm really happy, very pleasantly surprised with the way they're playing, and hope they can make it to the playoffs. I have to leave. I'm so sorry.
All right, guys.
Thank you for having me.
Sorry that we had taken up so much of your time. Appreciate you being on, buddy. And we'll do it again.
Definitely.
All right.
Goodbye, everyone.
And we'll get your notes for Twitter.
No worries.
Okay, Jason.
Thank you.
The Mute Brothers.
Off, I was wrong about the. Let me correct myself. The Giants are 3.5 games behind the Carp. I was looking at the wrong number. But just moving on from the Carp, I was also wrong because I picked them to finish last, and they are not going to do that. I'm not thoroughly, but I'm impressed with Takahiro Arai and the job that he's done with the team, because if you look at them, they didn't make any particularly wholesale changes, but he's squeezing everything so far that he can out of that team, and I mean, Sasaoka didn't do that, and so I think he should earn some plaudits for that. I don't know how much, if you get any award for getting a team into the playoffs if he does that, but he should get it because he's done a good job, I think. Masato Morishita is pitching well for them again, and Yatokoda. I don't know how sustainable it is. They seem to be a pretty steady team, but it also seems to be the kind of thing that could just go off the rails at any moment. But yeah, so far I've been impressed by the Carp, because I didn't think I mean, it is hard to see how they're doing it so far, but they're the sum of their parts. I mean, everybody's doing their part. Everybody's kind of moving the next guy along and getting the big hits when they need to get those hits and making the plays. And like one of you said, I'm sorry, I forgot who it was, Akiyama coming back. I think he's got his feet under him now, and he's a really good example for the rest of those guys to follow. It's a shame that Nishikawa got a little banged up, but I'm impressed by the Carp, whether they finish third or fourth. But it looks like they definitely have the talent to hold on to third. Maybe they can even get up to second. Who knows?
Sure. Yeah. All right. Let's go to the Bay Stars, and that's Michael.
Okay. Yokohama is now in second place with a 43-36-2 record.
26? What is 36?
46-36. 43-36-2.
Okay.
They're mainly in second place because they absolutely dominate the Swallows and Dragons, while staying fairly even against the Tigers, Carp, and Giants. I think maybe -1 against those three. So dominating the Swallows and Dragons are definitely the main reason we're staying in the race. I had them finishing third this year, and I kind of have a feeling that's probably where we're going to finish. I don't really see us keeping up with the Tigers for much longer. We've done a great run so far. We had a fantastic May and a fantastic June, but it seems like every other month we fall back. The outlook doesn't look good. The main players so far have been Miyazaki, who's leading the Central League in batting average. Sekine has been absolutely dynamite from the beginning this year. He's got speed on the bases. He's got speed in the outfield, covers lots of ground. I've really liked Sekine. Kuwahara, I love in center field. He tends to play awfully shallow, but there is nobody better at running back toward the fence to get a ball hit over his head. I really like his defense, and he's not making a bunch of base running blunders this year. Kyoto has been a surprise. I have no idea why the Dragons decided to get rid of him.
Kyoto,
but
yeah.
But yeah, Kyoto has his play at shortstop. He's got great range. I've really been impressed with his defense and able to steal bases. He's a really good addition. He's been kind of a utility player. He's not in there every day, but when he's in the ball game, he's definitely been contributing. And Imanaga on the mound, man, these games are fast. We were already in the 6th inning at 6:15 today for a game that started at 5.
Yeah.
So an hour and 15 minutes we were in the 6th inning because Imanaga and Oseda
Daiji Oseda,
for the Carp both of them get the ball and throw it. They're not throwing a bunch of balls. They're not wasting a bunch of pitches. They get on the mound. They throw the ball. It is beautiful to watch. I think
pitch clock needed.
No pitch clock needed with these two on the mound. I kind of expected to have a 2.5 hour game today, which I think we had the last time Imanaga pitched. And Bauer has been pretty effective. This whole thing going every on 4 days rest. He's been doing well with that. He had some videos toward the beginning of the season where he was basically showing his biorhythm or something, where he works out and it tells him what day he's most fit, and he's said that he's most fit on 4 days rest and ready to pitch again. And
they're letting him do it, which is
and yeah, that's very surprising.
It takes a village to do that. Yeah, certainly not a one-man decision. Yeah. All right, let's go to Jim.
Okay. Yeah, the Bay Stars. What's to be surprised? I mean, who would possibly be surprised by Taiki Sekinen being a good player?
Mirror anyone?
Jim did say that he had some great stats on the farm team last year.
No, but I love that, Michael. Pretty much, you hit it right on the head. We're still waiting for Tyler Austin to come back. Boy, I'll tell you, when he comes back, it's going to be Austin city limits in Yokohama, because if he can just stay healthy, the poor guy. Neftali Soto, nice, good contributions. The pitching staff, Shota Imanaga. Again, I don't have to say anything more about him other than to say that he's really learned to be humble, and he's learned to be humble and understated. He's like going, me pitch in the major leagues? Oh, I don't throw hard enough. I'm not big enough. I don't get enough spin on my fastball. I'm going, dude, give me a break.
I don't get enough sleep.
Yeah, you name it. He's ready to go. He is so ready to go, but he got so much flack last year, 2 years ago, for saying that he wanted to play in MLB. And you don't mess around with the DNA PR department, because they basically seem to run the team.
They run the media too, right out of the building.
Yeah, that was my Sig Heil for DNA.
Yuck.
Yeah. No, but I do love, the pitching, very solid, very dependable. Daisuke Miura, congratulations to him for not sort of being beyond the image he was supposed to be, and being a kind of level-headed guy. Managing.
Was he trying to do that the first 2 years?
I think at first, he got played up as this small ball base stealing wizard. That was going to because he was the anti Alex Ramirez. He was going to be the guy who was going to restore the Bay Stars to being a Japanese kind of baseball team. And he just, but some of that too was just him coming back and being, and being a different kind of guy than Alex Ramirez was. Some guys managers just don't click with, and he clicked with some guys, particularly Masayuki Kuwahara, and given guys a chance, and good to see that Toshiro Miyazaki is back, and this weird thing he's got going with his four different catchers. Mm-hmm. Seems like four is a small number.
Catching stable, yeah.
Yeah, no, and just running through them. Although Yasutaka
rotating.
Yasutaka Tobashira has been the main guy, but everybody's getting a chance to play, and it's a kind of a friendly competition. Although I would say it doesn't look very friendly. I don't think anything Tobashira does looks particularly friendly. He's got that scowl-ready demeanor.
He does. He does.
But no, it's again in a positive way. And Shugo Maki, no matter how many Shugo Maki lookalikes you can put in the stands, there's no one like the original. He's just a very joyful kind of a guy who's got some real pop in his bat. And I find it humorous that the Bay Stars and NPB were touting him as the Mr. Doubles guy because he led the league in doubles last year when he and Masayuki Kuwahara tied for the team lead in doubles over the last 2 seasons. So one of them's a doubles guy and one isn't. I don't get it, but that's, when you got the Bay Stars
marketing.
PR,
It's marketing.
Go figure. Okay. Yeah. So I like them. I don't see a big pitfall coming for them unless it's some kind of fallout over some guy having personal problems that the team didn't know existed.
Well, they probably know, but they trying to keep it under wraps.
Well, that's what I meant. They're acting like they never heard of anything.
Yeah, we had no idea. Jason,
the Bay Stars are actually pretty much doing what I expected them to do. I picked them second earlier, and I think I wrote that Katsuki Azuma, him coming back was big for them. Another year away, and then Trevor Bauer was gonna be not big, but he was going to be able to really contribute to a pitching staff that could use some depth or that could use another good arm. And for all of the Trevor Bauer experience that the Bay Stars have swallowed, he has at least given them that. So I guess they're going to get their money worth out of this whole thing. But in the bullpen, although the Yamasaki got blew up the other day, or maybe it was today, but Issei's not giving up runs for them. He's just throwing hard, and he was helping Maki get ready for the WBC. So, and Maki has been great, and Mikizaki's been great. So yeah, they've pretty much been exactly what I thought they were going to be. I thought they were going to pitch better this year. I always thought they had a pretty good offense. So I'm not really that surprised by anything that Bay Stars have done. I expect them and the Tigers and the Carp to fight it out the rest of the way.
Yeah, I had them finishing, I believe it was 4th, and maybe it was 3rd. I'll look it up here. But I am a little bit surprised because I thought the reason that they would be so successful is because some of the foreign players were contributing more, and we haven't seen that. So I think they have some room for growth in the second half, actually. And Jim talked about Tyler Austin maybe coming back. That would be a boost. And, I had them finishing last. Whoa. Who said 4th? Anyway, but yeah, Azumi definitely leading the way on the mound, and they still have Bauer and they still have Imanaga, and there's a drop off after those 3. Yeah. But I think Shinichi Oniki can shut down any team on any given day, and the other guys can make games out of whatever they have to. If they need to go 4 or 5 or 6 innings or whatever, they can piece it together. I'm not sure what this looks like in the playoffs, so I'm hoping for the Bay Stars' sake that they find a way to beat Hanshin and just sit back and kick back and watch the first series, the first stage of the climax series. But if not, they have to try to fight their way through. But I love Maki. Miyazaki is challenging Luis Arias in Florida for trying to go for 400 or hitting winning the batting title. So I'm hoping he'll finish that off and win a batting title. That'd be great for him. But this team, yeah, you're right. I kind of expect them to continue, or expect the team to continue doing what it has done over the first half of the season and into the playoffs, and it should be fun. The Hanshin Tigers, and this is the last team, and we got to go zip through these guys. So I had them finishing in second place just because I didn't trust what they would do in the second half. They traditionally, you talk to a Tigers fan, anybody, anywhere, they can be a Tokyo Tigers fan or a Kansai, a Tigers fan from the Kansai area, and they will tell you this team can have a really good first half, and then it fades in the second half for some reason. Now, we know that Koji Chikamoto, I guess he broke a rib and he hasn't been in. We didn't get to mention that on a couple shows ago, but He hasn't been in. He's off the roster, and they're still finding guys to come in and produce, and so they're winning games. Maybe not at the same clip, but they're not losing every game. I think Takumu Nakano is the next Takashi Toritani. I think I said that on the show before, and he made a couple plays tonight. One dive into his left, and then another taking a one bounce throw at first base when someone bunted, and the throw easily could have gone past him and into the foul territory down the right field line, and he just made a great play. And he has impressed me, and he has turned me around. I wasn't so high on him early on, but he gets on base, he hits, he plays defense, and he makes those key plays. He's Derek Jetering out there. So I really like Hanshin. I would hope that the Tigers can pull through in the second half. I know they have the road trip of death. I think if Jim calls it, they have to play away from Koshien while the high school tournament goes and is being played. But if they can get past that, I'd like them to finish it off and win the pennant. But they're the Tigers. I don't trust them. They need these guys. Teruaki Sato has been inconsistent. Yusuke Oyama has been inconsistent. Sheldon Noisy has been inconsistent. But if those guys can stop sputtering and become more consistent, they'll score a lot more runs in the second half, and I think they'll cruise to a pennant. But if not, it's going to be a tough way to go. Michael.
Oyama has certainly hurt the Giants or the Bay Stars quite a bit this year.
How could you confuse the Giants with the Bay Stars? Where did Jim go?
He dropped out for something.
Oh.
Maybe he got a call.
Okay. Hope not at this hour.
The Tigers seem to be the Bay Stars' kryptonite. They just have a really hard time getting past the Tigers, even though we're almost even with them. Winning at home, losing at Koshien. It's been a rough season against Hanshin. So the Tigers, I had them finishing in first place. I did think that Teruaki would be hitting a lot better than he has. Oyama has certainly impressed me against the Bay Stars, at least. He has our number. And their pitching has just been outstanding. I don't know where this pitching has come from, but it's been really, really good. They've got a plus 52 run differential, as their pitching has not been giving up runs, and they don't have nearly as many runs as scored as the Bay Stars, but they're still scoring a lot of runs, certainly a lot more than they're giving up. And I had the Tigers finishing in first place, and I think that that's where they're going to finish.
Okay, yeah, I didn't get into that. I cut my spiel in half in the interest of time, but I love the rotation. I love the pitchers, although they didn't come through tonight. The bullpen didn't. But Jason, what do you got on the Tigers?
Yeah, coming to some of the Bay Stars, I had the Tigers finishing first, and they're there now. That doesn't mean they're going to finish there, obviously, but I've been impressed with what they've done. They did that last year where they had a really great run differential, yet scored almost no runs because their pitching has been that good. One thing they're doing this year is they're walking a ton, like way more than they were walking last year, and I guess that's just giving them more opportunity to try to find a way to score runs. And if that's sustainable, they can keep putting guys on base, and then you can have guys like Oyama or Chikamoto when he comes back. I think he's swinging bats again today. Maybe he took live BP or something like that. But once you get those guys back and you get guys on base and they get hits, good things can happen for them. So I think that's something Okada must have stressed, is that we just want to get on base because we're not going to knock in runs with any powers, or just going to figure it out another way. And he's been doing it really well. And that their pitching is what I thought it would be, but differently, because Koyo Aoyagi has been bad, and both of the Nishis have been bad. But then you've got these other guys. Shoki Murakami has stepped up. Hiroki Saiki, is that his name?
Hiroto.
Sorry about that. Hiroto Saiki has stepped up. So Yeah, those guys have done
Masashi
really
Ito,
well.
yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like the Tigers have obviously they have what it takes to finish in first place. You never know what's going to happen in the end of the season. And the Bay Stars, they get Tyler Austin back, they're going to be right there. But the Tigers are they've done what I thought they were going to do, just a little bit differently.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't get the chance to talk about the rotation, but this team is another team that if it gets into the postseason, but has to come from second place or third place, can go through that first series and then match up very well in the second series. And in fact, what happens, because you have to pitch your top starters to get to the first series, if they're the longer the series goes, the better their pitching gets, in that situation, and that could bode well for them. So we have Jim Allen back, and hopefully you can hear us and you can give us your take on the Tigers. I said road trip of death and the computer crashed.
Indeed, it did. You were cursed, John Gibson.
Not me. It's Hanshin.
I love the starting pitching. I mean, the starting pitching with Hirota Saiki and Shoki Murakami slowed down. Not surprisingly, that the league has caught up to what he was doing, and learned his approach and know what to look for, which completely blew him away the first 2 months of the season. Some issues with the pitching have popped up. Yuki Nishi has done his Yuki Nishi hot again, cold again act, but Koyo Aoyagi came back. So I think the pitching, the offense has been very good this year, although inconsistent at spots. And I guess the big question is how long in a team built on maximum scapegoat, the belief in maximum scapegoat value, how long can Sheldon Noisy keep playing? Because Akinobu Okada has been although he's made snide comments about him in the press, and maybe that's his purpose on the Tigers, is to be an escape valve, a let off steam valve for the rest of the team, because they can blame him. But no, I'm very pleased with the job that the Tigers generally do. The bullpen has been kind of a shambles of late, but not, just occasionally. It generally works fine without Atsuki Yuasa being consistent. That's probably the biggest downside to that team. I don't see any reason why they shouldn't continue to be in first place the rest of the season. The road trip of death is an old thing. I didn't make it up. But no, they look pretty good. They look solid. Koji Chikamoto is going to be a challenge, and again, Murakami probably won't be as good in the second half. But I'm betting on Koyo Aoyagi being himself. The guy who was the Tigers' best pitcher the last 2 years, coming back and contributing in the second half, and adding to what, of course, Kotaro Otake has been remarkable. It's amazing when you take a player who's sort of like just got on the Hawks' bad side,
mm-hmm.
and just let him loose on the world.
All right.
So good for them. Good for him. So I think the Tigers are going to keep rolling.
All right. Well, it's time for us to roll into the bed. So
I don't think it's the bed. Hopefully not.
Our beds. How's that? Our separate but equal beds.
There's no such thing.
Yeah. All right, Michael. Thank you very much for taking the time. Papa to be, Jason. Thank you. Appreciate it so much.
Thank you,
Jim. Thank you. Even though you had the crash and then return, so that was remarkable. It's just like a video game. We got the All-Star game coming up, or All-Star games or break coming up this week. So hopefully you guys have enough time to listen to this long show. Anyone who has questions, and we'll get back to the regular format next week. So hit us up with a question on Twitter at JBW Podcast with the hashtag High Heat. Send questions via email to yakyujohn@gmail.com. You can also go to the Facebook page and leave us a note, comment, criticism, or praise there. We will talk to you next week. Enjoy your baseball.
See you at the ballpark. That's an order.
Later.
Take care, all.
All right, I will hit stop recording.
Yeah.